Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Kingfisher Knits podcast. My name is Madeleine and this time I'm talking to you from my parents' house in the United Kingdom in the south of England, where I'm currently staying with my two young children. We've been here for a couple of weeks now and we're actually going back to Zurich, where we live, very, very soon. I just wanted to say a big hello to all of you. Thank you very much for tuning in. If this is the first time that you're checking me out, thank you so much for taking the time to check out my podcast. And if you're returning, thank you again and welcome back. I will say that this episode might be a little bit different. I'm not at home and I have a bit more, a few acquisitions to talk about. I do have some knitting to show you, but not a huge amount, but I'll explain why in a minute. I have obviously a different setup here. Apologies for the slightly dull background, but I needed somewhere that I could set up with good lighting, and this seemed to be the best place that I could do that. I also have had a haircut, which you might notice. This is the first time in a long time that I've had so much of a fringe, and I only had it cut a day and a half ago, and this is the first time I washed it and dried it myself. So if I sort of nervously keep touching it or something, please bear with me. I'm just, adjusting to a slightly different version of me. So I think I'm just going to quickly mention that show notes as always, are down below this video on YouTube. So in the description box below, there you should find all the links on where to find me and the things that I've spoken about. We also have a group on Ravelry, so it's the Kingfisher Knits group on Ravelry, and I also post show notes there, and that's also where there are chatter threads, there are introduction threads, and there are the information about any cals which are going on. At the moment, the cal which we have going on is called the mixed base cal, and you can go check out information about that. I'll put that at the top in the sort of first section of the show notes down below, so you can go check out what that cal is if you want to join in. Okay. So I'm going to start by talking about my whips, and I think I just have a couple of whips to show you today. I tried to be restrained on my travel knitting. I suffer definitely from stash separation anxiety when I go away, and I think because I'm not a monogamous knitter, I think I've forgotten to bring something, or I've brought something and I think I'll want to work on that and then I don't. Obviously, one needs simple projects when one is travelling, but also I knew I was here for a while, so I didn't want to bring absolutely nothing. But I think I was fairly restrained. I think I only brought 3 projects with me. Oh no, 4, because I finished one. But I knew that ultimately, if I needed something else, I could acquire some yarn, and I will tell you about the really fun time I had acquiring some yarn a little bit later. But I'm going to start out with knitting, and I did show you last time around that I wanted to knit a pair of DK weight socks, and that I had a ball of yarn. I'm wondering if I have the tag here. I don't think I do, but I have a tag of a similar yarn here. So this is the yarn. It's the Air Valley DK from West Yorkshire Spinners. It's a 75-25 wool nylon blend, but it's a DK weight. And I had this yarn. So this is, oh, here's the tag. It's put in there. I had this yarn, so it's a self-striping one of this yarn. I'm just going to see if there is a name for this colour. I don't think that there is here though. Anyway, this is a self-striping version of this yarn, or colourway, which has 4 stripes, you'll see in a minute. And when I caked up the yarn, I found that I only had 80 something grams, which to me didn't sound like enough to make a pair of DK weight socks. So in order to be safe, I didn't start knitting. I ordered a ball of this, the cream colour of exactly the same yarn, so that I could do contrasting heels, toes and cuffs, and then be sure that I would get a proper pair of socks out of them. But I had ordered this to be shipped to the UK here, so I couldn't start before my travels. So this is where we are, tangled up with these socks. Let me just get that yarn out the back. I do have the window open here. I do hope that that won't cause noise issues, but it's quite warm. It's not very good weather here the last couple of days, but it's still quite muggy, so windows closed is not really fun. So it's looking pretty, they're looking pretty long right now. I'm going to do afterthought heels. So I started here at the cuff. I believe I did 46 stitches, but I might have to double check that. Anyway, it's something like that. So DK weight socks for myself, and I think I'm at the point now where I'm probably going to start the toe. But I kind of want to start the toe when I'm on cream, so you know, you get full repeats like I did here. So I started with the cream here for the cuff with a 2x2 rib, and then I purposely started with the yarn with the stripe furthest away from the cream. So I kind of want to do that. So I think I worked out that for the length of my foot, that means I should stop now, otherwise I'm going to have a much longer leg than I probably want. But I do have to maybe think about that a little bit more. Anyway, I've been knitting this on my high sharps. These are my interchangeables. I've got 100 centimetre or a cordon, so I've got 100 centimetres, and these are 3mm needles. So I have very much been enjoying working on that. I cast them on very soon after I arrived here, and I was on my way up to London, which I will tell you about towards the end of the podcast. And it was, I think it took me 2 or 3 attempts to cast them on because I was so excited to be going up to London. I just kept making mistakes. Anyway, so that is the first whip that I want to talk to you about. Nothing particularly special or interesting about that. And the other whip that I'm working on is was also a yarn acquisition, which I made before coming here. This is a project that I knew I wanted to knit ever since the, what's it called? The Indie Gift Along. This is an event, a Ravelry event, which goes on every November through December, and the run up to Christmas, where indie designers get together for a certain period of time. They all offer 25% off all of their Ravelry store patterns, and then people who are knitting them, if they finish their projects within a certain time, I think it's up until Christmas, they get to enter their FOs into the Cal for prizes. But there's also a lot of fun going on the run up. Anyway, I was one of the designers for that last year, but I also went around buying patterns from a bunch of other indie designers who had that sale on, and it was really a lot of fun. Anyway, so this is the pattern that I am going to be knitting, and it's for my daughter. I just have the printed pattern here, and it is a raglan sweater. It's knit in pieces, and it has an intarsia heart on the front of a striped sweater. So she called it From Breton with Love. This is by Vicky Bird. She's Vicky Bird Designs on Ravelry and Instagram. And I just thought this is the cutest sweater, and I haven't done intarsia, I think, since I first started teaching myself to knit sort of all different techniques, more than just knitting and purling. And I did try it out way back then because I was like, oh, that's something else, I want to do that, and I just haven't ever done it since. But I think this is not too tricky. Yes, you've got the added stripes going on, but you haven't got lots and lots of different sections that you need to be carrying lots and lots of different balls of yarn. Anyway, so this particular sweater, I think in the pattern she suggests 2 different yarns. One is an acrylic or an acrylic blend, and one is a merino yarn. I actually bought the suggested merino yarn, which is Patterns, I think it's Patterns Extra Fine Merino DK, or Merino Extra Fine DK. Yeah, here it is. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about this. So what I chose was to do basically the same colours as she had done in one of hers, but instead of the cream, I'm doing this pale sort of tea rose pink. So this is a navy. It's very hard to see. There you go. This is a navy for the thinner stripes. This is the pale pink for the thicker stripes, and this is the bright pink. It's coming out a bit red there, but it is a bright pink for the heart. So just for those who might care to know the colours, they have shade numbers here. They do. I bought these from the Wool Warehouse online in the UK, and they did also have shade names for them. But anyway, the navy is 150, the pale pink is 135, and the dark pink is 138. Now this yarn, when I was buying it, or looking at choosing the colours and just choosing to buy it, I was also thinking that I really like the Shack & Meyer yarn, which is called Merino, Extra Fine Merino 120. So often in Germany, or at least I think often in Germany, or in the yarns that I've often bought in Zurich, which typically come from Germany, it's quite common for yarns to be named by the number of meters that you get in a ball. So for a DK weight yarn, and it's exactly the same for this one, 50-gram ball is 120 meters. So Schachenmeier and also other companies like Lang have a lot of yarns which are named something, but to denote the different weights, they'll say merino 120 or merino 85, more for a worsted Aran weight. Anyway, so I was thinking I really like that yarn. I knit a hat for my daughter in it in one of the Arne and Carlos design line versions. So Schachenmeier is officially the parent company of Regia, so Regia or Regia. If you look on the label, there is Schachenmeier written higher up. But I think now what I discovered is that a lot of these yarn companies, it's a bit more complicated than that, and some of them have sold off some of their brands to other brands. Anyway, what I discovered, and Vicky, I was actually messaging with Vicky, the designer, on Instagram, and she said, I'm pretty sure that Patterns is the same as Schachenmeier. And I think it's probably not quite as similar as that for every single possible Schachenmeier yarn, but certainly Patterns UK and Schachenmeier, several lines of Schachenmeier yarn, are owned by the same company. And so instead of ordering the Schachenmeier 120, which I know I like, I thought, okay, well, I'll order the Patterns Merino Extra Fine DK, which is also a little bit cheaper. And I can now tell you, because I have knit with both yarns, these are exactly the same yarn. So although Schachenmeier is often a little bit more expensive, it's called, Merino 120 or Extra Fine Merino 120, it is exactly the same yarn. The packaging is identical except for the branding. The yarn is absolutely identical too. And what's kind of special about this yarn, and actually Arne and Carlos had a video talking about this yarn at some point. So it's an incredibly round yarn, and it's made up of 12 strands in total. So basically they make a 2-ply yarn. Okay, so 2 plies are plied together, and then 6 of those 2 plies are then plied together again to make this yarn. So it's very, very round, and that also makes it very pill resistant to pilling. I haven't made a garment with this yarn before. Apologies for the car noises outside. I haven't made a garment with this before, but I made my daughter a hat, and she wears that thing to death. I know hats will pill less than garments, but it hasn't pilled at all. Absolutely at all, and she's worn it for a whole winter. Anyway, so Arne and Carlos said that this yarn pills much, much less than other merino yarns. Anyway, and it's also a good price point. Okay, that's my piece of information about yarn. As I said, this garment is worked flat. I'm working it on 3.5mm for the ribbing and 4mm for the stocking stitch portion. And I have finished the back piece. This is stockinette or stocking stitch, worked flat, so of course it's going to curl like crazy, but I will try and show you. So this is the piece, which of course is then curling up. This is the top of the back. Here is the raglan decreases, the underarm bind off, and it's worked bottom up, so I started with the ribbing. And I got almost to the armholes when I stopped and looked at the pattern and realised that I had totally invented the striping sequence. So in Vicky's pattern, it says you do 4 rows of the main colour and followed by 2 row stripe of the contrast colour. And I did 6 rows of the main colour throughout. I nearly stopped and ripped back, not because I don't like how it looks. I perfectly like how it looks. It looks a bit different than hers, but it's still a very nice look, I think. But then I might run out of the pink yarn, because obviously I'm using more pink yarn compared to the navy by doing it this way. What I decided that in terms of the pattern, I'm quite confident in adapting anything necessary because of the changes I've made to the stripe sequence. What I might do is go ahead and buy another ball of the pink, or adapt a little bit. So I've definitely got enough to knit the vast majority of it, and in terms of the pink yarn, I mean. What I might have to do is do cuffs in a different colour on the sleeves or something, or maybe play about a bit and add in some stripes using the dark pink if I have any left after I've done the front. So I've done the back. I'm making the 8-year size, by the way. My daughter is 6 now. She will be 7 in September, and she's fairly tall, and the sizes were 6 or 8, and so I wasn't going to make the 6 because that would probably fit her fine just now. So sorry, this thing is rather annoying to show off. Anyway, so I'm very, very happy with it. The stitch definition is absolutely lovely on this yarn. It's really it's very nice to knit with. Yeah, very, very happy. I have started the rib on the second one, but that's where I am with that. There's not a great deal going on there. So those are the only whips that I'm going to show you today. I did bring another whip with me, but I haven't worked on it at all, so I'm not going to count that as a whip right now. Okay, so I don't have any FOs to show you, sadly, because I have finished an FO. I have finished what was formerly a whip. If you remember last time around, I was doing a test knit for the lovely Leslie Robinson of who is Knit Graffiti, and what I discovered and what I showed you is what yarn I was using. I can just show you very, very quickly here that this is the wrong side of the project I finished, but just to remind you, I was using this barefoot sock from Berenwolle. This is in the final colourway, which was Dawn of a New Day. And what I found that working with this yarn was really, really, really lovely, which makes me extra sad that she's not doing yarn and making yarn anymore. But anyway, I've finished the test knit, and it should be released very soon. I believe that yesterday she posted on her Instagram a full picture of the design, but I don't know if we're allowed women to show it. We were told that no, just a couple of teaser pics like I put on my Instagram were allowed, but we weren't allowed to show off until the pattern was released. So you'll just have to wait till my next podcast and I will show that off. But I'm very, very happy with my finished object for that. It is my test knit for the Spring Vibes top design, which is going to be released very soon. So I did finish something, but I can't show it to you. So that all feels like I got through everything very, very quickly there, but as I said, I've been taking things easy and I have not been knitting on lots and lots of different things. I haven't been speeding through anything except the test knit, so a lot of knitting time was spent on that. I did want to show you, I know you've seen this before, but I was very happy while I was back here in the UK, the lovely Amy of Stranded Dye Works sent me back my the sample of my Colleen shawl, so I now have this back, and I just wanted to show it off again because I love it so very much, and my mum loves it so very much, so I think we've decided to do a bit of a timeshare with it that I will show. I'm going to leave it here with her for a bit. As much, I mean, I really, really, really love it, but she really liked it too, and I thought, well, maybe I can leave it with her for a bit, see if she uses it and wears it. I have knit her things before, but more like scarves and cowls and socks, but and not a great big shawl. I didn't knit this, just to remind you. The lovely Sarah Hepworth knit this as a test knit, and then said that Amy and I could have it as a sample. So this is my Colleen shawl, which was my pattern release a couple of months ago now, and this is the colourways from one of the kits which Amy did, so just as a reminder, this has her Oasis fingering base, which is a 75/25 merino nylon, and this one we used the Shiner colourway. Then there is the Kid Mohair Silk, her drift base. This is in her Modern Love, which I love it. I love it so much in the mesh lace section there. And to finish off the kit, there is a skein of DK weight, which you see best on the lovely border here. And this is her Heliograph colourway. So very, very, very happy to get to see that again. And yeah, I think I will be leaving it behind with my mother for now, so that she can enjoy it, because she really, really loves the colours. So what I'm going to talk to you about now is the knit crate from May. I realise we are now at the very end of May, but it's just how things went that I didn't have a chance to review it, because it did not arrive to me until after I had recorded my last episode, and then I had to bring it away with me so that I could do the review for you. So this is just a reminder. KNITCRATE are a company, they're based in America, and they send out boxes or bags depending. So this was this month's, came in this lovely little box. To people who sign up for their membership. They have different types of membership. I will put the link down below where you can go and check out their website. I always say that that is an affiliate link that they have provided me. So if you do sign up, I do get a very small percentage just for the first month of your signing up. But if you have an issue with affiliate links, then by all means just search for KnitCrate online to find their website and the information. So yes, they sent me this box, which is the KnitCrate membership. This is the main membership that they have. That will always be 2 skeins of beautiful yarn and a knit and crochet pattern and some discounts for other designs, normally from the designers who made those knit and crochet patterns. That also includes shipping, and this is one of the features I really particularly like about this company, is that the price that you pay is the same no matter where you are, so shipping is included in your membership price. And they do also have the Artisan Crate, which is a higher price point. So the KnitCrate membership, I believe, is $24.99, give or take a couple of dollars. Artisan Crate is, I think, around $34, $35. That includes more, what's the word? A little bit more luxurious yarn. So normally yarn, so for that they always collaborate with other yarn dyers and companies for that yarn. Instead, for their own branded membership, they're using what they call their in-house yarns, which are still often indie dyed yarns, but dyed by people within their company for their brands, put it that way. So yeah, for the Artisan Crate, you normally get, you're getting a bit more special yarn with that. Sometimes I think they have a goodie thrown in, and they certainly have a pattern as well for that. And then they have 2 different types of sock crate membership, and those are their KnitCrate sock, which I think is a skein of sock yarn, and they have certainly their KnitCrate sock Artisan, which again, similar idea, just slightly a bit more special yarn. I would certainly say that I think that everything I've seen from them so far has definitely been good value. I'm obviously talking about the KnitCrate membership, which is always $24.99 there or thereabouts, and they quote that the value of what you get within the packet is $63. So this time around, their theme was contemporary. So they have a theme for each month, and all of their boxes are fitting into that theme in some way or another. So this is contemporary, and coming with this particular crate this month, the patterns I can show you here were this, which is, I believe, a shawl. It's called the Daxis by Susan Hogel, or Suzanne Hogel, or Hogel, but I would say Hogel. And the crochet pattern is for, I believe it is a clutch. Yeah, cabled clutch, there you go, but that's a crochet pattern. And so you can tell from these pictures that they've gone for some beautiful mulled yarn this time around. And so these are the 2 skeins of yarn that you get in there. So each skein of yarn has a value of $24. So you're getting 2 of them. So just talking about the yarn, you're already getting basically 2 for 1. I actually really, really like this mulled yarn. Obviously, marling is very much in right now. This is a particularly simple take on marling, in that it's really a truly, a barber poled yarn. There are 2 different colours there, sort of a very naturally very pale grey cream with a darker grey. But I think it's a lot of fun, and I really like the feel of this yarn. So this is called the La Brebis by KnitCrate yarn. This is the colourway Grey Twist, and it is 40% merino wool, 40% Peruvian Highland wool, and 20% nylon, and 400 metres and 100 grams. And it has a really, really lovely feel to it, because you can tell that it has merino in it, that it's soft, but it also has just a touch more towards the a more rustic yarn, which would be with the Highland wool. But I don't know, it's really, really nice. So I haven't decided what I'm doing with these yarns yet. Perhaps I will keep one for myself and give one away, or perhaps they'll both go away to someone. Of course, I can imagine a pair of socks would be lovely in just using 1 skein of this yarn. But I am quite taken by this lovely shawl. You can't quite tell perhaps, but there is some texture there, so uses of knit and pearls, I believe, also within that, which just make a really nice, interesting look to it. So I get that signing up for a membership and getting grey yarn might not be everyone's idea of fun, but I do think it's really nice quality yarn. So they are not buying my opinion. I will always give my honest opinion. That is absolutely clear. As I said, if you want to check it out, the link will be down below, and I will also put down the discount code that they've given us, which is Kingfisher 20, all written together, all in large letters, but I will put it down below, and that will give you 20% off your first month's membership. So if that's something you're interested in trying out, then I certainly don't think you would be particularly disappointed in terms of value for money. Then again, signing up for something like this, you don't know exactly what you're going to get, and even if they have different colour options throughout the month, you don't get a choice. They'll send you what they send you. Though they do make it pretty easy, as I said last time when I was talking about them, to allow you to exchange your yarn with somebody else. They have forums set up on Ravelry where you can swap with other people. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's for everybody at all, but I think it's also something very nice and interesting for some people. Okay, so the final part today, I'm just going to chat a little bit about what I've been doing, which will include acquisitions. Very soon after I arrived in the UK, I had a weekend up in London without my children. I left my children with my parents, and this is the first time in 4 years that I have been away from my children for more than probably effectively 12 hours. I haven't spent a whole night away from them. I've spent days away or evenings away, but not a whole night. And this was sort of 2 nights and 3 days, so it was very special. We also had amazing weather, and I got to do a lot of different things, but at the same time it all just none of it felt tiring. It all felt energizing, and it was really very special. The first day when I went up, is the one which is most relevant to you guys, which is that I met up with some knitty friends. So first I met up with Helena. She is Edelweiss. I think it's Edelweiss 20. Is it Edelweiss 28 or Edelweiss 86? Oh, that's terrible, I can't remember. I just think of her as Edelweiss on Instagram. Anyway, I'll put her name down below. I met up with her in Islington outside Angel Tube Station, and we went to Loop. I've never been to any yarn store in the UK, actually, except for John Lewis, which has a nice yarn section in certain John Lewis stores. Anyway, I went to the Loop for the first time. It was a really lovely experience. I was so happy to finally get to see this place, to see everything they had. I am aware that Loop is not, I don't think anybody dislikes Loop, but I'm aware that it's a certain type of yarn store. It is very much a beautiful yarn boutique with very special yarns. Most of the yarns that they carry, it's quite hard for you to get anywhere else, at least in person in the UK. Of course, you can order most things online these days, but if you want to go and touch the yarn and see how it is and pair up colours, then it's quite a special place. They obviously also have a lovely team of people there. We were chatting away for quite some time with some of the members of the team there, and we also had a chance. I just was so happy to have a chance to meet my friend Helena, who I've been chatting on Instagram and by email for some time now, and also to be in such a beautiful place while we're meeting up. Ellie of skeindeer also came along to join in with us for the day, and that was really nice. Ellie obviously is very familiar with Loop and London yarn stores, so she was also very useful to me from that point of view, and pointing out different things yarns that I maybe didn't know. So I had a good chance to feel several yarns that I've never purchased because I didn't know what they were like. For example, Brooklyn Tweed. So I have now finally touched and fondled some skeins of Brooklyn Tweed, so I know what it's all about should I want to get some in the future. We did spend a fair amount of time there because there's so much to look at. It's not a huge store, obviously, but it does have an upstairs and downstairs, and we were just really happy there. We had to leave because we got hungry, basically. But I did buy one skein. I will preface this by saying that I picked up this gradient cake of yarn on a D-stash. You can see there beautifully how lovely and sparkly it is. It is a 75-25, well, 75-20 and 5. Yes, a 75 fine merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina, 400 meters for 100 grams. And this is from Yarn Floozy originally. This is the Grasshopper colourway, and I picked this up on a D-stash. I don't know if any of you know Pamelasaurus Rex on Instagram. She had a D-stash a while back, but I just had her post it here to my parents, so I haven't picked it up until now. So I just really liked this gradient, and there is a pattern. I don't have it printed out in front of me now, but it is called Lamington Panes. I will link it down below. I believe it's by Kate Bostwick or Bostwick. And it uses a gradient skein paired with another skein And basically you're striping the gradient with this other solid yarn, but this other solid yarn you're also making long slip stitches, which are making your design on top of the gradient. So what I had thought was to do that with maybe a grey or a darker grey. But in the end, what I picked, I bought it in loop, was this it's from Squish Fibre Arts. I have to put it closer so you see the colour. That's the colour. And I just love them together. I like that this is quite high twist, which this also is, because a lot of the other yarns that I was picking, so Loop have a lovely section of single ply yarns, which I wasn't going to use, and they did have some lovely twisted yarns, but most of them seem to be around the 350 to 370 metre mark per skein, and that was not, the pattern said that you needed 400 metres of each yarn, and I saw that people had said that some people had ran out of the main colour, so I really didn't want to buy a skein that was going to be, you know, less. So this is actually a lace weight yarn. It's merino cashmere lace, but it is so plump. You can see a slight difference in the thickness of the fibre, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. And it's a fairly heavy lace weight because you have 100, so here you have 4 ounces, which is actually more than 100 grams, isn't it? What's 4 ounces? 115 grams about? I think so. And it's 570 yards for that. So for it's not massively over 500 metres for 100 grams, or barely over 500 metres for 100 grams. So it's not really, it's a very heavy lace weight or a very light fingering weight. So I think it's going to work fine. And I think it's going to be beautiful paired with this yarn. So that was my first purchase. I picked up this from home and I purchased this at Loop to go with it for that lovely shawl. After going to Loop and we'd grabbed some lunch, Ellie, I had said that I was of course interested in going to Wild and Woolly, but Wild and Woolly, for those of you who don't know, it is in Clapton. This is not connected particularly well or directly, certainly not to the tube, and not super close, although actually it's not that far, but to a train station. So while I was confident that if I put my mind to it, I could get myself there via train and walking or buses, Ellie knows it very well, and she knew exactly which buses we had to jump on to get there. So Helena sadly had to depart and go back home, but Ellie and I made our way up to Wild and Woolly. And that was a really lovely experience. Wild and Woolly is considerably smaller than, well, it's probably about half the size of Loop. It's a small shop, but it is packed floor to ceiling with gorgeous yarn. I got to see yet more yarns that I hadn't seen at Loop. One of the yarn I wanted to mention that I saw at Loop was Quince, which is really nice to finally see and touch some Quince yarn. Quince & Co, sorry. Anyway, and at Wild and Woolly, they had several yarns which I had always wanted to try and potentially buy. So they had Garthenor yarn, they also had Durarum Natura. They didn't have exactly the colours that I'd been looking for, because I'm thinking of getting my sweaters quantity for the Hochi Locatelli Rhapsody in Cables pattern to use the Durarum Natura Gilead yarn. Anyway, so I was very happy to be able to again see that, feel it, and also various other yarns that they had there. They also have the Wool Kitchen, who is, I'm a great fan of the Wool Kitchen yarn. That's what I use for my Radiate sweater here. But anyway, what I did end up buying was, just before I had left Zurich for coming to the UK, Caitlin Hunter had released another pattern. I have never bought a Caitlin Hunter pattern. I totally admire many of her designs, but I just hadn't bought any of her patterns because I wasn't quite sure exactly what I'd like to make. I have the Birkin pattern, and I bought my yarn for the Birkin, which I showed you last time round, so I have that because I have it from the Lane magazine, volume 2. So I am a fan of her designs. I just have never bought any of her individual patterns. But this one, from the moment she posted it on Instagram, I wanted it. So when she was posting this yoke here, when she was knitting it, I was blown away. I'm trying to make it so you can see the colour there better. So in the pattern she has, obviously they're both the same up here, and then she has a short sleeve version and a long sleeve version. She has it quite wide and oversized, and also, I wouldn't really call it totally cropped, but it's not a normal length sweater. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the extra small, which already has a bust of 38. That's 3 inches of positive ease for me, which is plenty. But I don't think, I'm probably going to want to make it longer, and I wasn't sure yet if I want to make short sleeved or long sleeved, or potentially make a long sleeve but not with all that patterning, just some of the cuff patterning. Anyway, so I needed to buy enough yarn for the long sleeve version so that then I would be safe, let's say. This particular sweater is designed, or knit with, and sort of designed for using single ply merino yarn, hand dyed, at a very loose gauge, so 22 stitches. And as much as I love the look of all those gorgeous single ply yarns, and I'm not saying I would never ever make a single ply garment, but I just think it's going to pill, and especially knit at such a loose gauge. So I was not looking for a single ply yarn for this. I wanted to use something that I thought was going to stand up better to wear. And when I was at Wild and Woolly, I found really several gorgeous options, to be honest, but what I went with in the end was this lovely yarn from Triskelion. I don't know how to pronounce the yarn base. I'm gonna say Skilfing, but I'm not entirely sure. 4-ply. It is a 75%, so it's coming out a little bit more reddish there. It is more purple. No, it's always picking up the red, this camera. That's a little bit better, but it's still more purple than that. Anyway, this is the Skilfing 4-ply, 75% Blueface Leicester, 25% Gotland, sourced, spun and hand-dyed in Britain, which felt really nice as like a nice thing to bring back from the UK from my trip. It's 100 grams, 350 meters. Hand wash only, so it's non-superwash. It's got a beautiful twist to it, but it's still woolly and beautiful. I had got these skeins are the colourway Ring Giver, and this is Ember's End. So obviously this is the main colour and this is the contrast. When I was buying it, they did say, "Are you sure that's going to be enough?" And I looked and looked and looked at the yardages, even for the size up from the size I wanted to make, and this would be enough. And I did think that was a bit strange, because basically there was not much different in the yardages between the short sleeve and the long sleeve version. And of course, it's one of those things again, instinct, alarm bells should go off. But Caitlin had already made an adjustment, I think the very day that she released the pattern, that some of the yardages had been inverted, and she had sorted that out. So I just thought, okay, well, maybe it is, and anyway, if it's not quite enough, I'll just make a shorter sleeve version and that'll be fine. And she posted on Instagram, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, that she realised there was a mistake with the yardages quoted for the long sleeve versions. And so I don't know if she's actually released a full update for the pattern yet, because I haven't had an email on Ravelry. I only noticed when I saw this post on Instagram. But I went to the Ravelry pattern page, and now the yardages listed on the pattern page are significantly different to those in the pattern here. So I have been immediately on email to Woolly, to Wild and Woolly, to ask if I can see on their website they still have skeins of this colourway, and just to double check that they should be, but just to double check they're still the same sort of dye lot that I bought when I went in 2 weeks ago. So I'm hoping very much that that is the case, and that I can order a third skein, because I do have enough to make the short sleeve version, but I want the freedom to make the long sleeve version if I want to, and obviously I have to pick up that yarn now before it sells out. So I will get that, and this yarn is so beautiful, there will be a very good use for it if I end up not using the third skein. So obviously I was in a purple and grey mood this trip. Another thing that I ordered, picked up again just because I was around, I wanted for a while, I haven't even unpacked them from how they were shipped to me, but these are the these are needles and cables from the Chowgu mini twist line. So they do have a set where you can get interchangeable needle tips and cords, but I don't really want a set for sock needles because I don't use all the sizes. I think they go, you get 2.75, 2.5, 2.25, 1, 2, 1.75, maybe even 1.5, and I don't want really to get those needles. If I ever need those tips, I would go and pick them up. I don't need a full set for that. But you can purchase them individually, and this is a different cable than what you normally get. So I do have a sock needle, I think a 2.5mm sock needle of Xiaogu, a fixed circular, and that has a different cable from the one which they developed for this, for their set, for their interchangeable sock set. And I've heard from many people that this is a lovely, lovely cable. It's still their same idea in that it's a stainless steel cable which is coated in plastic, but it's just thinner and more flexible than the one that you get on their other interchangeable and fixed circular needles. So I just picked up the tips that I normally use for socks, which is 2.25mm, and I picked up 2 different lengths of cable. The cable I would need to do normal magic loops, so the one that makes an 80cm, and the one for doing 2 at a time, so 100cm. So I was happy to get those. I think I also got those in the wool warehouse when I got my yarn for my daughter's sweater. So the final thing that I wanted to show you is some lovely yarn that arrived to me while I was here from Jane at Family Tree Yarns. So this is her sort of postcard. She also has a business card, but she included a postcard in with this order, so you can see there all her details, although I will link, I'll at least link her Etsy page down below. I've ordered yarn from Jane in the past, and I still covet the 3 skeins that I got from her, where I promised myself that at least one of them would be a giveaway on the podcast, and it will be a lovely price at some point, but I haven't used any of the yarn from her because I really, really, really find it so beautiful. I will use it, but she had posted a little while back 3 new colourways that she had developed, and I nearly went off immediately and bought all 3 colourways on her fingering weight base. So I think she has a couple of different bases, but I think my favourite is her 80/20, merino nylon. And then I just thought I really have several ideas right now for DK weight shawls. I have one more worsted weight back on the needles, which I didn't bring with me because it was a heavy amount of yarn to bring with me. So I just contacted her and I said, would it be possible to have those colourways dyed up on a DK base? And bless her, she said, absolutely, I'm going to try out a couple of different bases and see how those colourways turn out. And she sent me both sets of yarn that she dyed up. So incredibly, incredibly generous, and I cannot wait to get started to work on these yarns. So basically these colourways, her new colourways were called the Silver Queen and the pink letter, which was sort of tonal grey and pink. And then there is a pink and different coloured speckled yarn called Grey Joy. So this is on a 100% superwash merino DK base, and these are the 3 gorgeous colours. They're showing up beautifully there. So you've got the tonal pink here, which is the pink letter, the tonal grey, which is the Silver Queen, and then this speckled colour, which obviously pulls from both of these 2 tonals, but also has other things going on, and this is Grey Joy. So this looks more similar to the yarns which she had originally dyed up on her fingering weight bases. But she also tried another DK weight base, which she just ordered in to try out. And this is also 100% superwash merino DK, but this is an ethically sourced DK, as it's called. And so she dyed up exactly the same colours, and they came out quite differently. And I can't decide which is my favourite. So the grey here, the Silver Queen, you can see came out more blue. So it's like it's picked up some of the individual, dye colours that she must have used to mix this colour. The pink down here, pink letter, has come out just more subtle overall. And the speckle, obviously this particular yarn didn't take the speckles so much, so they ended up, spreading out into giving a more softly variegated colour for Grey Joy. So to show you them up next to each other, if I can hold 3 skeins in each of my hands at the same time, should be able to. You can see colours are altogether brighter here and also then more separated. And here it's all much, much more subtle, the effect. But I think they're both really, really beautiful. And I honestly don't know which is my favourite. And I don't know which is the one I'm going to use when I knit up the sample. But absolutely stunning yarn, all of it. And it will all be put to good use, either in projects, designs, or potentially, if I have some yarn, left over, if I use one set and not the other, or I use the set and one of the other skeins for something and I want to give away, I might then. So obviously plenty of beautiful yarn here, which I will be putting to good use in designs, potentially for something else also, and if there's something else left over, then also giveaway potential here. So thank you so kindly, Jane, for sending me that. And she also sent me a beautiful little project bag which she had sewed up. I don't actually have it just here around me right now, but probably that will get shown off at another point. But thank you so much, Jane. So I'm sure that I'm forgetting something that I could be talking about right now, but in general, my heart is full of relaxation, yarny, nitty goodness. In that trip to London, I also got to see some very old, very good friends over some of the following days after I did all my nitty fun, and it's all just been totally lovely. My final highlight was that on last Saturday, I went to the Heathfield show. That is a local agricultural show to us here. It happens once a year. I went many times in my childhood, and I had asked Mina, the lovely Mina of the Knitting Expat, if while I was in the UK we would be able to meet up somewhere, either in London or somewhere else, and she actually happened to be coming down to Heathfield last weekend, which is where her mother-in-law and father-in-law live, so they were coming down for the weekend and they were going to the Heathfield show. So I went along with my family and my children, and she was there with Layla, and it was very lovely. It was an interesting day in that it was really quite warm but incredibly muggy, and the kids were all quite tired. But we both had a chance to go around together, you know, with Perry and Layla and my children. But we also had a little bit of time to ourselves afterwards, just Mina and I. So it was really nice to get the chance to meet her. I'm very grateful that she had the time, and that we got a chance to, you know, chat face to face, because one feels like we know so many different people out there in our lovely knitting world via Instagram and people's podcasts and the like, but it's always nice to actually spend time with people and not just watch them on YouTube. So Mina did do a vlog, which I think went up a couple of days back, where she vlogged the Heathfield show where we met. So that was really nice, and I hope that in the future, when I come back to the UK or wherever I go, I will always continue to be able to meet up with all lovely knitting people around. Okay, I think I'm going to say goodbye for now. I hope that everyone is well, that summer is upon all of you. And I will be updating with you again once I'm back back at my home in Zurich, and I've had a chance to do some more knitting. Until then, bye!